afternoon, and thank you all for staying until late, well, middle afternoon on a Sunday. First of all, I would like to thank the Research Grants Council for giving us the grant to do the research on the project Learning and Assessment for Digital Citizenship. I'm Nancy Law from the Faculty of Education, University of Hong Kong, and I'm the project coordinator. And this work would not have been possible without our fantastic team of co-PIs and co-Is from both our partner institution, the university, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, as well as colleagues from the University of Hong Kong, of course from the faculty I'm in the Faculty of Education, but also from the Faculty of Medicine, Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Social Sciences, and also Faculty of Engineering. So it's really a truly interdisciplinary team that has been working on this project. The focus of our project is, in fact, to address the grand challenge of understanding and improving the development of digital citizenship as a multifaceted human capacity from childhood to early adulthood. The study has actually been just finished. It was a 5-year project starting from November 2016. But because of COVID, we have extended it for about half a year. So it was finished in March this year. And we have 2 key research questions. The first is, what is the normative developmental trajectory from childhood to early adulthood in key aspects important for digital citizenship? So basically, what does it mean? We all understand that, from research, that both nurture and nature matters to a child's development. But with the pervasive digital world that everybody is now immersed in, even babies play with digital devices, and of course, different digital environments. So how do they develop? How are they affected? And also, when we look at development, it's not just the cognitive or the metacognitive, but also other non-cognitive aspects of development. And we call it, we have a concept of wellness in this project as well. And we also want to study how do personal, family, and school factors contribute to the development of digital citizenship. And we have we target a delivery of 5 project goals, a conceptual framework, an age-appropriate instruments for assessing digital citizenship, a set of indicators for digital technology use, family, and school environments. And we also develop serious game designs to foster digital citizenship, and we have actually conducted a longitudinal study. We've just finished our sort of longitudinal study report, which is now accessible on the web. So, and we are very pleased about the research outputs that we have published so far, which includes not only academic publications, but also research bulletins for the public, as well as press conferences. Also, because we've been working with schools, and for all our studies that involve empirical data collection, we provide the participating schools with individual school reports. Of course, we are still, there are quite a number of research publications that are in the pipeline. These outputs actually contribute to a number of different areas. First of all, we made theoretical contributions to the conceptualization of digital citizenship, as well as changing conceptions of digital citizenship education. We've made a number of methodological contributions, which will be detailed later. And we have also conducted empirical studies on digital citizenship and personal and social wellness. And these, again, would be presented later. Well, the study is not a COVID study, of course, but because it spanned the period, I mean, in fact, COVID occupied quite a substantial period of our study. And so we were able to, and so we would not have been able to do it without, stakeholder support during the COVID. And we have also, because of the COVID, we were able to see another aspect of digital citizenship development in times of stress. And we have also made contributions to learning technology and citizenship development. Again, these would be discussed later on. And yeah, so, okay. So first of all, I would like to describe what we have done in terms of developing a framework for the understanding of digital citizenship as a multifaceted human capacity. So from our perspective, then digital citizenship includes the competence, the rights and awareness of the rights, as well as the responsibility to engage and participate in a globally connected world for personal and social well-being. And for the for digital competence, it includes both digital literacy and collaborative problem-solving ability. And we also look at the social, political, and civic participation, both in terms of interest and also in terms of behavior. And we see this to be important for learning, for everyday life and well-being, for future career, and also for contribution to the society. So the human capacity, both cognitive and metacognitive, that we focus on are digital literacy and collaborative problem solving, and we see it as developing through engagement and participation in the person's specific context, both in terms of home, school, and community. And for our measurement of digital literacy, we use a well-established framework of a 5-dimensional framework for digital literacy, which includes information and data literacy, communication and collaboration, digital content creation, digital safety, and problem solving. And for the collaborative problem solving, it comprises 2 dimensions, the cognitive skills dimension as well as the social skills dimension. Okay, so digital competence has received a lot of attention, and a lot of research have been conducted on teaching and learning. But in terms of measurement, in fact, the work is not that extensive. And so in doing this project, we are actually addressing a number of conceptual and methodological challenges, or you can say tensions. So one is whether, say, the digital literacy is a generic skill or not. Say, a lot of times, say, for example, if we look at, say, collaboration, communication, or even, say, mathematical literacy, language literacy, a lot of times the measurement is assuming that it is a relatively so we're trying to measure something which is context-free. But in the case of digital literacy, does the literacy, say we can define, say, for example, information and data literacy, but does it depend on the kind of tools and devices and so on that are available to the child, and what has been their experience? And also, say, for those of us who were born earlier, we have been exposed to much older technology, but what about the newer ones? I mean, the younger children will have no idea. So which kind of technology we give to the student for assessment also matters. I mean, that's our, so that's our thinking. And also the tacit assumption in a lot of the assessment is that the development is age dependent. But is it really that age dependent? So our study actually tried to conduct empirical studies to try and see whether the age or the experience of the child is actually more important. And then methodologically, well, first of all, in the literature, we don't see any authoritative assessment for children under the age of 13. And there is no, and we don't know of any study that actually were able to compare digital literacy across ages. And so in our study, we have been able to develop a set of items, and we have actually given it for assessment to children from primary 3, 5, secondary 1, 3, and 5. So it's actually quite a wide age range from age 7 to 8 to age 17 to 18. And we have also compared the, so I've just mentioned that we use a 5-dimensional model for digital literacy, but we want to try and find out whether empirically these dimensions were actually, distinct dimensions or not. And we have achieved very good model fit, and the test forms have high reliability. And then also another challenge that we tackle, or we try to challenge is, say, in the existing globally known studies on measuring digital literacy, they have all been using tools or platforms that mimic actual platforms. Say, for example, giving the students something like an email platform or a PowerPoint environment or a web browser environment. But for those kinds of design, the problem is there is high sort of interdependence across items, which measurement-wise is not that desirable. So what we have tried to do is to actually have another paradigm in terms of design, which mimic a variety of user interfaces and interactions. And so this would support more agile changes as well in terms of future development. And we have published our findings on the rigor of the instrument. So basically, we want to measure, okay. So what we try to do is to, using the measurement, we try to find out how does digital citizenship capacity affect well-being, and also how the digital citizens' use of digital devices influence the digital literacy, and also has these changed over time between 2019 and 2021. So our study design has a longitudinal panel study design. We in fact have 4 cohorts, we sample 4 cohorts of students, but only 3 of the cohorts we do the digital literacy and collaborative problem solving assessment, because the final, this cohort 4 is in fact undergraduate students. And because we find that, they are they are actually the high achievers, so we decided that it's not a very good target for that study, for this kind of research. So we have sampled 3 cohorts of students for the academic year 2018 to 2019, and they were, say, primary 3, secondary 1, and secondary 3 students. And then 2 years later, we do a kind of like a post-test when they became primary 5, secondary 3, and secondary 5 students. So a lot of the schools in Hong Kong, so when we did the first sampling in 2018, we actually sample 2 classes from each grade level in each school. But usually the schools would actually reshuffle the students. So 2 years later, well, it's very difficult for us to just identify the students, and the schools don't like to do it, to match the students. So we basically asked to be able to study a much bigger sample, more classes in 2021. So you can see that we actually have more classes and in some cases more students in 2021 than 2019. But we're able to keep 55% of the students which are common. And we really want to thank our participating schools, because if you are aware, say 2021 was in fact, the heat of the COVID-19 as well. So these are the results, and the 0 represents the mean digital literacy score for the entire sample. That means both primary and secondary, all 3 cohorts of students in 2019. So you can see that for all 3 cohorts, their digital literacy scores improved greatly, between the 2 years. And also, but at the same time, you can see that the range of achievement also widened greatly. And in fact, some of the students, well, most of the students improved, but some students actually received a lower score in 2021. So that means they have deteriorated. A few of them have deteriorated in the digital literacy as measured. And also you can see that, say, within this rectangle, the left-hand side is the secondary 3 students in 2021. On the right-hand side is the secondary 3 students in 2019. And you can see that the secondary 3 students in 2021 is performing much higher than the secondary 3 students 2 years prior. And also, so what you are seeing are the box plots of the digital literacy scores for each of the 3 cohorts in both years. And so for each of the schools, so each pair of the box plots is 1 school. And you can see that say if you look at the blue line at the top, that line is representing the median score of the highest performing primary 5 students in that, the median score of the primary school that has the highest performing primary 5 students. And their median score is in fact higher than the median score of the entire secondary 3 sample in 2021. And the lower, so the green line is in fact the median score of the primary 5 students in 2021. So all the primary schools, the median score. And then that is in fact higher than the score of the secondary 3 students in the lower performing schools. So we are seeing we're seeing great digital divide, but not only that, an increasing digital divide within schools and across schools. This is the results for the collaborative problem solving. And we actually use the collaborative problem solving instrument that's developed by the University Assessment Research Center at the University of Melbourne as part of the Assessment and Teaching of 21st Century Skills Consortium. And their instrument has been benchmarked with children from 6 different countries. And so we can see that our students in Hong Kong, we have relatively poor cognitive, so the cognitive process skills are relatively poor. So our students are only, in the main, being able to do gathering and collecting information, and not strategic planning, executing, efficient working, or refined strategic application and problem solving. Whereas our students tend to be operating at a relatively higher level compared to the international peers in terms of social process skills. So, but then on the right-hand side, you can see the performance. Now, this is across the years. This is probably easier to read in terms of the, if we use the box plots. So their instrument can only measure up to, down to the age of 11. So for the 2019 study, we were not able to do the cohort 1, that means the primary 3. So you can see that, and then the 0 is in fact the reference mean score provided by the University of Melbourne Assessment Research Center. And we can see that, again, so the upper chart is on the cognitive process skills. And we can see that the cognitive process skills across the 2 years is, slightly lower in terms of the mean, but it's almost the same. But if you look at the social skills, the collective problem solving social skills, the students have actually, even though they have advanced 2 years in terms of their age and also in terms of the grade levels, their social process skills became significantly lower. So indicating the impact of COVID and the social distancing on them. And then the digital, and in terms of the measurement of the collaborative problem solving skills, we also try to, in addition to working with the instruments from the University of Melbourne, we also try to address the, quite a big debate, in the area. So in terms of the educational measurement, internationally, the internationally known studies, they were measuring them in terms of as an individual attribute, even though it's collaborative problem solving, it was the individual's ability to collaborate and problem solve. So, and then it's supposed to be, it's measured as a generic skill and stable across tasks, partners, and over time. But if we look at the learning sciences literature, it's quite different. The learning sciences literature value and they see the group performance as different from the individual one. They see it as task dependent. They see the group dynamics to be important, and then the prior knowledge, and also the task dependence. So we try to do another study using games design and games use to measure. So internationally, there are 2 well-known instruments. One is the top one is the ATC21S one, which we have used, and it uses a dyadic game. So that means 2 persons collaborate remotely in a game-like environment, whereas the PISA CPS is actually is individuals collaborating with virtual agents. We use that one, and then we also use a game, an online multiplayer game, to do the measurement, and we compare. And then we find that, and then we're also trying to develop computational psychometrics methods to do the assessment. So investigating the nature of the CPS competence, we actually do find that the group dynamics matters a lot. And also, we also find that the group settings and over time, so if we look at, say, we had groups of children collaborating over several weeks, and we find that how they work actually changes, and their competence both individually and as a group changes. We have our colleagues over at the University of Science and Technology have also been doing a lot of using AI methods, machine learning, and so on to explore, the assessment of collaborative problem solving. Another part of our study was to look at social engagement and participation. And so for the lower age cohorts, the school cohorts 1 and 3, we were basically focusing on how their online participation connects with wellness, which will be reported later. But we also had the undergraduate cohort, and we looked at the social participation using the theory of planned behavior, and we compare both on and offline. And and what we found was that generally students were more involved in online than offline. We have particularly common online activities were signing petitions and posting or forwarding messages of political content. Non-participation is an active and deliberate decision. And online and offline participation seem to reinforce each other in the longitudinal data using actual participation. And the third finding is, in fact, a major theoretical contribution from our study. And then looking at digital wellness, we find that, say, the students, we measure the students' internet addiction across the 2 years, and we see that the internet addiction did increase. And the older students have, say, the secondary, the cohort 2 and 3, they are basically the same, and they are lower than, say, when the cohort 1 students come on, they are lower than the secondary students. But then we can see that, that's a huge increase over the period. Right. And then we look at game addiction, and we find that, in fact, the younger children have were more prone to game addiction, and there wasn't such a serious increase there wasn't much increase in terms of game addiction over the two-year period. And boys showed higher levels of game addiction at both time points in all 3 cohorts. Looking at cyberbullying, we find that actually there's even for the cohort 1, the primary students, the reporting of the cyberbullying experience were quite significant. The 2 years are not, the data is not comparable, because in 2019 we asked them if they have ever experienced, and then the 2021, it was whether they experienced any of those in the past 6 months. And what is important for us to note is that there is quite a large proportion of the students, in fact, experience both, cyberbullying both as a victim and as a perpetrator. So there is a high correlation, and previous cyberbullying experience predicts later cyberbullying. And we also look at the mental health situation, and we find that the mental health situation actually became worse over the 2 years, and the older students are experiencing more serious problems, right? And what we find is very important is that digital literacy has been found to be a protective factor. It's negatively associated with adverse digital well-being and adverse or negative online behavior experience, and then positively associated with online. No. Okay. So they're more able to exhibit online self-protection capabilities. And also we find that, say, for students who, obviously, students who use more digital device, spend more time on digital devices, they are more prone to, say, gaming addiction and so on. But then having a higher digital competence does in fact also protect them against the negative effects of using digital devices. We find that so we also look at, say, the digital, yes. So we also see that the students with higher digital literacy levels are less likely to be victims of cyberbullying, even when the frequency of digital technology use was high. And also, now this is important, children whose parents are more restrictive report more cyberbullying experiences the more time the children spend on digital devices. So parenting is important. We also find positive correlation between SES and digital literacy, particularly for the younger children. And we also find that so there are two factors. One is the academic capital, and then the other is home resources. Home resources are more like, say, whether they have a room for themselves or they have their own desk, which is more economically less changeable, and then the academic capability is more like the number of books and the parental education. So the academic capital has a higher impact. And also we find that the SES has a higher impact only at the school level. I think this is too much. I want to go on further. And then so we had we also have a methodological exploration on understanding children's learning lives from an ecocentric perspective. So we get the students to wear wearables which would measure their own physical activities as well as physiological responses and so on. And then, so what happens is that the student wears the Fitbit during the class, and then the Fitbit synchronizes to the mobile phone sends the raw data to the cloud server, and then to the local server, and then the student will receive notification if, say, for example, they become too excited or whatever, and then the students receive the notification. So this was, and then they would be asked to, say, note down some, what they were doing and so on. So that was the study, but then we also try to challenge ourselves. Does this egocentric way of collecting data and understanding, is it really giving the so-called real picture? And so we have colleagues who also did an anthropological study, and the findings were quite interesting that, in fact, to do it requires the students' understanding and collaboration and so on. So it is a contested and negotiated process. So impact, well, we have been able to, in fact, we were so excited that even before we have sort of, in the middle of our work, we receive a lot of requests for more research from our team. So say, for example, we were requested in 2018 by the UNESCO to develop for them a global framework of reference on digital literacy skills. And then we also have just completed for UNESCO, again on the request, a background paper on digital literacy assessment. Our study, once we reported our 2019 study results in 2020, and it was widely reported, and we were actually requested to do more research because they wanted to understand how the COVID pandemic affected the children. So in fact, even though we designed 2 waves of data collection, we have actually done 4 waves of data collection, although the second and the fourth are not really the longitudinal, but more a comprehensive study, and we had charities coming forward to fund our project. We have held quite a number, well, we have published 6 bulletins for the 2020 round of data collection. and it was widely reported. And we have also been very successful in getting further funding from both the Public Policy Research Funding Scheme in Hong Kong, as well as the German-Hong Kong Joint Research Scheme, to look at how our study can be extended to improve digital citizenship education. We have been invited by the Hong Kong Boys and Girls Club to actually help them to assess the efficacy of their digital literacy program for disadvantaged children using our digital literacy assessment tool. We have also been able to connect with colleagues in Europe who've been also doing quite a lot of work on digital citizenship work. And then I think we don't have too much time just to show you some of the work that is also currently undergoing to look at how the technology could in fact help us in developing the capacity of digital citizens. So the AR, VR is an important part of what we would be able to do. So these are the things that we are still further working on. So and also understanding how we can have emotional communication within the digital environments. So in summary, we have actually accomplished what we set out to do, and we are still actually, and the work has stimulated more research than we have anticipated, and quite a lot of it is still ongoing as well. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Law. If you have any questions for Professor Law, please raise your hand to let us know, and someone with a microphone will come so that you can ask your questions. Please.
Thank you for Nancy for a wonderful talk. Paul Yip is here. I'd like to, would you be able to provide a bit more information about the ideas to use the student to do the self-track? And then you say that it's a contested and negotiated processes. What do you exactly mean? Do you mean they are not that willing to participate, or is it a piracy issue, or what are their actual concerns?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes, I wasn't able to explain clearly. So basically, I mean, for the researchers on the team, of course, we would be collecting the data and analyzing the data as we have designed it. And we assume that, say, for example, now one simple example, the team found that so some students actually switched their Fitbit. So does the Fitbit actually represent the same child over time? And also, I mean, they're just playing. They are not actually doing anything bad. And also, are they, and sometimes, because they know that this, they know, sort of know how this works, and so they try to push. Okay, so how would the Fitbit respond if you have different activities and so on? And so in a way, so even though it looks like an objective data collection, but how objective is it? So the research team using the digital anthropology methodology, they actually observe the classes when these children were wearing the Fitbit, and they were also interviewed afterwards. And so they have been, so the paper is it's reviewed and under major revision. So I hope the paper would be published soon. But it's a very fascinating study in the sense that, our subjective interpretation of the objective data may not be as objective as we expected. And there's always this, so I think what I think an obvious next step would be to explore, we were thinking of getting the children to be our co-researchers as well. But being a co-researcher with children is not something that you can just say, okay, I give you the instruments, I give you the Fitbit, I give you the mobile phone, then it would work. So I think that's actually something quite interesting, because one of the things that our colleagues wanted to do, was actually to help the children to become more self-regulated learners. But the self-regulation doesn't just come when they know the data. So I think that's quite interesting. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Professor Law. This is a very interesting, very productive study. I have actually a lot of questions because I like to know do you look in the granularity of your data, for example, gender, the economic backgrounds? You have access to, to your subjects of study.
Yes.
Sometimes they were not released, but sometimes when you mention about the family has single room or that, so I thought you might have some access to those data in your study.
Yes.
And for me, my concern, the two, one is the mental health issue that you're indicating that some in the development having the strong access to digital learning, e-learning would have some implication to further troubles. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my concern. The other one is really the pipeline to different development area in terms of the, after they finish this stage, what would they making an ability or to recognize to make decision in the next stage of their intellectual developments.
Right, okay, thank you.
It's a long question, but I just like you.
Right, okay, I'll see if I fully understand. Okay, first of all, the first question about the demographic background of the students. Our sample was random sample from 4 districts, school districts in Hong Kong, and those districts actually represent quite, a wide range of SES. So from the most affluent district to the sort of most disadvantaged district, and and then we did ask the children for their we have a background instrument. And gender, I think there were only a few students who did not provide the gender data. And we also, because we have longitudinal data, so we're able to map them. Basically, they were reliable. So I think by and large, the gender data is correct. For the SES, it's, now of course, we have to trust them. And so we were able to, we had questions which like asked them about, whether they have their own room, whether they have their own desk, whether they have, the parents' educational level, how many books at home. I mean, those are the sorts of more commonly used items. Actually, I was showing 2 further data collections. The second one and the fourth one, they were not planned in the TRS study. And those were conducted basically as survey studies because we have to have a quick one. And for those 2, in fact, we were able to get parents. We had parent participants. And so we were able to look at the parents' data mapped to the child's data, which is also quite interesting. And I did not actually report on that, on those findings, but those findings actually reveal much more in terms of the parenting aspects. Yeah.
Thank you. This is James Tang from UGC. Thank you, Professor Law. I'm sort of thinking about the implications of your study on the undergraduate teaching and learning. I know this is an ongoing project, and only one part covers the undergraduate students. But as we sort of, the big talk is how the new normal might affect university education. So I'm just sort of wondering whether you have some thoughts on how the online, offline, all these experiences that you looked at among our undergraduate students will affect potentially how universities could respond in
Right.
this new normal in
Right,
terms
thank
of
you. Yeah.
strategies or approach
Right.
to teaching
Right,
and
okay,
learning.
thank you very much. In fact, I think the best person to answer this question is our MC today, Dr. Frank Rehart. He's actually the person who's doing, he's the main researcher on that part of the study. Would you like to say something on that?
I'm not sure if I really can say that much on this, because for the undergraduate cohort, we haven't really looked at their experiences of teaching. We've more looked at their digital skills, self-reported. So as Professor Law said, we didn't actually administer our digital literacy assessment to them. And we have also looked at their participation, civic participation, their anticipated behaviors, and so on. We have not so much looked at their experiences. We did ask in a qualitative study this question, but this was very small scale from which we cannot really generalize onto how can we deal with this situation. So I'm sorry that I can't really answer this question, but potentially from what we learned from schools, we can also learn about, for example, the isolation that they experienced during that time, and so on.
Right, yeah, right. But I think what is interesting is that the online and offline, they are actually very closely connected. So that means so it is not true that some students are mainly participating online and not offline, or vice versa. So these two kinds of social participation are in fact connected. And if the students do not participate, it was their conscious decision. It is a stance. But of course, it would be very important to study how the learning and teaching, they experience would influence the social participation. But unfortunately, that was not part of our study. Yeah.
Okay, we would have time for one more question, if there is one more question in the audience. Well, then thank you, Professor Laura.
Thank you. Thank you.